Ah yes, another one of my favorites. A Zachtronics game, heavily steeped in lore and story, even more so than most of them actually. And much of it is delivered in textual dialogue. I have a feeling my very extremely high resolution is interfering with the way the interface works. Hold on, I need to quickly... Even in the options menu there's lore. It's... Actually, this is already a good level for these. It should be fine. Anyway, setup aside, diving directly into the game itself, which this is one of my favorite Zachtronics games, and although there are many things I would do to make it better if I could do such things, which I can't really because I don't have the skill to be honest. The beginning of the lore. I'm going to be ignoring the lore, unfortunately, but also fortunately, partially because I just... it's a distraction from the game itself, and also partially because it's a huge spoiler. I'm going to be focusing on the problems. Oh yes, hold on, I definitely need to resolve this resolution. You see, all of these are multiples of the 16:9 resolution, which is the standard. This feels too big now. This feels correct. There. This feels much better. The training wheels. Oh, and another thing, I don't think there's a fast forward button anywhere in this interface, and so you just need to wait for it to speed up on its own, as it does. And as you can see, I'm actually not going to be paying attention to any of this because it's all tutorial, and I already know how to play the game. Oh, hold on. Forgot a step. Technically, if you do this with 2 arms, you can do it twice as fast. An abbreviation of this part of the story, you're an alchemist learning how to use automated alchemy machines in a university. Very simple. Yes, this requires you to do rotations. There. Actually, hold on, this rotation is redundant. There. And now for these. Oh, this one. Don't have access to the release operation in this one. Instead, I need to use the full reset option. And so these arms can be programmed to perform actions unconditionally in a loop. The only problem I have with it is, well, it is unconditional, and it is well, I don't have a problem with it being in a loop, just it being unconditional. I would prefer for the arms to detect what they're holding and perform actions based on that. Make things much... what would I call that? Well, better, obviously, but also a more smarter, much more smarter. This is just introducing us to all of the parts and how they work, which I already know how all of them work, and you'll see how they work in great detail once I start using them. You'll also learn that most of these parts are actually redundant and also interchangeable. However, using them correctly can result in very efficient machines. Yes. Transmutation from one type to another. There's one basic transmutation, which is the mutation from any elemental part into a neutral part. Notice how I'm not needing to read any of this because I already can't duplicate that yet because I already played this part of the game so many times. I already know what all of this means. There. Perhaps I should have skipped this entire part of the game. Although what fun would that be? Oh, now the training wheels come off for the first time. Finally. Yes, I already see exactly what needs to be done. One minor alteration required. Here. But there is a way to increase the speed of this. Like this. There, perfect. Oh, hold on. One minor alteration required. Already better. However, there are many ways to improve this. The cost is not great, neither is the area, but the cycles is good. We can actually begin our optimization right now. So, beginning with speed, which is usually my favorite. First, we can have all of this assembly here be put into a separate module from the rest in order to increase efficiency. And at this point, usually you use multiple arms in order to increase speed even further by parallel processing. And I'm going to be doing that like this with the tracks. And duplicating this and moving it this way. One great design choice of this game is because of the art style. Practically everything looks amazing, even if you're just making very basic machines. And so now the other ones need to be staggered by 2 cycles, because if they're not, then they will interfere with the ones before them. And now, because all of these have the same instruction set, I can just do this. And copy this one, bring it over here, make it do this, but also stagger it. Actually, this one should be put back here. And now, only one consideration remaining until we're done, actually. Here, like this. There, maximum speed. And now the cycles are at maximum. And if we watch, we can see exactly why. The inputs are always being utilized, and so is the output. It's being at the highest speed it theoretically can go at all. But it's also using a lot of arms. And I could have replaced these tracks with pistons instead. If I wanted to, that is. Notice all of these motions are linear instead of rotational as well. We can also optimize for the other two now. So here's a minimalist approach, using only the parts required. Using one arm, one joiner, one transmuter, one input and one output. Yeah, all that is required. Also rotating this so that it functions better. There, that's all that is required for this. And this will be both minimal cost and minimal area. And notice how radically different designs can be and still function theoretically identically. Notice area and cost are now at minimum. Excellent. So now this is perfectly optimized in both areas. Next. Yes. My certificate. And lore. There's a lot of lore. We'll be ignoring that though, because we only care about the problems currently, even though the lore is pretty great. In fact, this entire game is to me, an artistic masterpiece. Oh yes. Here's another one. Adding a new element to the game very early on. This one is transmutation of metal linearly from the earlier stage, which is lead to gold. Yes, very prototypical alchemy, and all of the stages of which there are 6, the core stage and the final stage, and 5 transmutations required, as is counted here, from one to the other, because if you have 6 stages, that's 5 movements in between them in total. Now, this would typically be arranged like this. How I would typically do this is with something like this. Yes, and then you duplicate that this many times, and then after that, finally send it to the output here. Very simple and logical. However, this is not maximum efficiency in any respect. The area is at minimum. Actually, no, it's one before minimum, because 2 before, we only need 1 arm. So watch this. It's going to be horrible, and also great. So first it places this part where it needs to go, and then no, instead of returning, it goes this way and grabs and There, and this part we can actually replicate 5 times in order for it to be successful. Omitting this return part here, going and there. And now you can see it's the same action done by a single arm, which is much slower but also much more efficient. Which in total I think would be less effective, technically. There's 2 factors to always remember: efficiency and effectivity. How powerful something is versus what cost per power it consumes. And so now the area is 6 instead of 8, which is even better, and the cost is minimalized, now down to 40 instead of 80. And the number of cycles is horrible, however. So we can save this, make a new solution for the next one, and this one can be maximum speed. Yes. Solutions can become so ridiculously over the top that... oh, and another thing to remember, because the number of transmutations required from getting to the bottom stage to the top stage is a prime number, that being 5, it's impossible to replicate that with 2 or 3 arms. We need 5 arms for it to be at maximum speed. In this arrangement. There, and we can just copy this, and its instructions will also be copied. And we can visualize what this would be like. These all need to be staggered by 2 cycles, all of them. Like this. Actually, very difficult to tell at a glance. And now you can see this is going to be at maximum speed. And then, after this is done, can release. Yes, perfect. There does appear to be one minor stagger here that needs to be resolved. And now it's running at maximum speed. Maximum parallel, and now the cycles are as good as they're ever going to be. It's horrible that I'm ignoring the story so much because it... But we're not here for it right now. Oh, this is just like that other one, but this time with only 1 input. And so we can only run it at half speed. Which is actually very simple still. This is going to be easy. There, don't even need that many instructions because it's such a simple operation. This is going to be size and cost. The next one is going to be speed. There. And I know exactly how to make this so ridiculously fast that it's just stupid. You only need 2 arms in order to fully utilize a node like this. Adding any more arms, you won't be able to increase the speed at all. And now this one going here like this. And additionally, there and there. Yes, and so now you see there's still a lot of instructions, but it's split up between so many arms, and so each arm does very little. And that's how you do modularity. Look at this maximum efficiency. Actually, I'm pretty sure there's a way to do this only slightly faster. Or perhaps not. I won't worry about it. And so now this is also fully optimized. Or potentially. As far as I'm aware. You see, this thing I never use because it's redundant. You don't need it. Well, for speed sometimes it's better to use it, but also for size and cost, actually. We won't worry about that yet though, however. Yeah. Should I do size or speed first? I think size. Yeah, this is where when it begins to become complicated. Size and cost are now offset. For the first time, you can't do size and cost at the same time. But this is still going to be fine. This is minimum space utilized. There. This should work. Yes, perfect. Minimum space. And if we use this, we can actually see how many tiles are used at a time. The footprint is minimalized, and then after this we can do cost. Because we can actually bring this down to one of these, one arm, which is 40 gold. The minimum, wait no, 20 actually. But we also need this thing, which is 30. So that's going to be area. This is going to be cost. And for this we're only going to need this. And now I just need to think about this critically in order to get it working. Oh, I know. Just do this. And problem solved. And now I can just do this. Actually, that doesn't need to be so far away. And because we don't care about space anymore, we can just have everything wherever. Actually, no. Never mind. We do need this to be like this. Because of what I planned. And now, actually moving this to here to simplify things slightly. There. And now see how this can be so much more efficient. 1 second. Oh wait, no, not like that, like this. There. No. There. I forgot where I left it. There. And now that's minimum cost, using not the advanced arm, but the minimalist arm. However, it takes more room, and that's why they can't coincide. There, and now cost is reduced to 30 instead of 50, which is almost half. And one more for speed. You notice how deep this this problem solving can get. So this I can break into two segments. The one that welds these two together, and the one that finishes with this one. Or perhaps I can do all of them at once with this thing. And of course we can only use this half of the time because this one is going to be fully utilized. And this is not fully aligned. We have a 1-to-1 ratio of this and a 2-to-1 of this. Small problem, but not that bad. And here we can have this be done by these. Simple. And maintaining the philosophy of minimal work done by any part individually. Can have everything done like this. Perfect. Now each arm does only 4 things. Grab, move, and then return, and returning takes 2 steps. And now this is maximum cycles. Perfect. Next. Perhaps do speed this time first. And so for this one, I know exactly how to do this. Technically I don't need to do it that way, I can just make the first one, and then copy paste that, which I should probably do next time. And then it makes this. Now hold on. Put a timing node here. It does this. And then after that's complete, it can be moved by this thing, and then again by another arm. I think we do need the timing node. Yes. And then that will be here, and then it'll be put back here by this one. After it's treated by these. Like that. Perfect. Maximum speed. And next. Area, not cost. Cost is the hardest one to do. And so now we are going to need something like this. Or potentially compressing further. You see, in footprint, these tracks are a bad idea. They take up a lot of footprint, especially when you make them ridiculously long like this one. These arms are much more efficient for that. The piston arms, I mean, because they can go in and out in the instructions. Trying to think of the best way to do this, and I'm pretty sure I just found it. Not like that, like this. Or... So, mentally, I'll place the first one over this here, move it back here, bring the next one through here like this, but then it can't bring the next one to there because it's being blocked. If I reverse these two, then place this here, it's actually just chirally opposite, so the same problem will happen, just in a different way. So instead, if I have it like this, now, this works better actually. There, this should work. Oh, hold on. Let's see how this works first before continuing. There, minimum space. Perfect. Had a small problem initially, but now it's resolved. Using only the parts necessary. And this is minimum area, 8 tiles. Now we can work on, what was this one? Cycles? Yes, now we can work on cost. The bad one. And in this one we don't actually care about space anymore, so we can just have these be wherever. And I feel this will actually have a similar solution to the other one. Like this. And yes, this is correct. I'm just verifying mentally. And now at this point we need to rotate it like this. And place this here instead. This appears correct. And then finally moving left 4 times and finishing should work. Yes, just like that. Notice the area is much larger on this one, but it uses the less expensive arm. And that's this complete. Nothing more we can do about this. Next. Like an assembly line, getting one thing done after another. Oh, this is bad. So, guess what? This number of inputs and this number of outputs has no prime factors in common. This is 3, and this is 2 and 2. 2 times 2, which is 4. And both 2 and 3 are prime, which means that this is going to be more complicated than usual. If this was 4, then it would be simple, and if it was 2, it would be simple. So first, we technically don't need these 2 extra. We can do space first this time. It's going to be difficult though with this awkward shape. but it's still possible if we do it correctly. This is going to be suffering. Space is actually the worst one to do in this case. So instead, I'm going to do speed first, because it's less horrible. And for maximum speed, we want all the inputs available. So this time, I have a new idea. First, we're going to make this part here, these two, individually from all of these three, and then assemble them later. And for that, we just need to simply modularize this correctly. Starting with this, then moving on to this part. Yes, which will then mutate. Getting rid of these so that we can just copy this later. Oh wait, no, that's not how that works. Put those back. And then the difficult part will be mating these together like that. At this point, need to decide exactly how this is going to work. Half of the time this one should bring it there in this orientation, and the other half of the time it should be this way. And that should activate here. And because of that we need to replicate all of these like this. And see how this works first before continuing. Invert these two. And that's incorrect. What about tracks? We don't care about the area in this one, so it should be fine. So, looking at how this works specifically, it's transposed one to the left and rotated, if done by the red one. So, first we should get it out of the way of the machine that's already existing. We also don't care about cost, so we can use the more expensive arms either way. This time targeting the red one instead of the white one. One of them requires triple rotation and the other one doesn't. And so that's how that can work. But these are in the wrong order. We can fix that though by just doing this. Not overly complicated. And it can be assembled here. Yes. And then that can be taken back out by this arm here. And so that's a good solution. Theoretically, if that's all we had, we could end there. But we have two more inputs here, and so we need to copy this entire mechanism 2 times. and probably reorient them as well. Making sure that they don't interfere also. And now they all need their individual inputs, like that. And then they should all release their product somewhere in the middle here, in a certain order. The routing at the end here is going to be the hardest part, I can already see. Actually, instead of having these all be rotated, we can actually just have them be staggered like this. Oh. There. This way. Now let's see if this works still. Yes. And so now they're all dropped in this row here, which is much more efficient. We can mark these positions with these to remember where to grab them, and then they can all be picked up by these tracks and placed where they're supposed to be. It's this orientation, and so like that. And so now you, at the end of this, go here, 6 movements in the positive direction, and then drop. That's a lot of movement for one arm. What if instead of that, we had 2 of these, so that each one only needed to move a small amount? There, like that. See how this works? That's a problem. What if we did this instead? You'll see what I mean. Not yet. Also transpose these. Like that. There. And then we're going to need another track for this one. Or perhaps just an arm. Or a pair of arms. Or an arm and a track. This is getting very convoluted very fast, as you would expect. So this lower part is done. The middle still needs to be rectified somehow. Oh, I know, a piston. So first, you grab and move and rotate to make sure everything is transposed correctly, and then after that, you grab and move to the end location. this problem. That's going to be slightly more complicated timing. What if we do it this way with that one delayed by 1 exactly? That works. Now we just have this last part to deal with. I wonder if this will work. No. So, you're going to need to... You're number 22. Move you to 23, so I can see you better. So first it rotates and then it moves, which the other one should probably also do in retrospect, in order to slightly contract it. No. Need to first rotate in the opposite direction once, and then in the next direction twice after moving, like that. There. Now it's functioning exactly as I wanted it to. Actually, where did it end at? Here. In that case, this marks its exact profile. And then I can just drag it like this to its end location, which I can do by copying these like this. There. I need to 20 and 22. These need to be synchronized with 25. And also with each other, obviously. There. Oh, that's a minor problem, actually. I think that can be fixed with this. Wait, what was its original orientation? Like this, and now it needs to be back by 1 in order to make room. And because of how it works, it should still function correctly. It can't move back any further. But there is another thing it can do. It can be on a separate track. Starting from here, going down by 3, it should still function identically. Yes, look, it works now, and it's a monstrosity that isn't even that fast. This is horrifying. I disapprove of this design. I'm going to stop.